Hey, welcome back. It's me, your culture commando, going out and doing a cultural recon today, and we're going to slip in here to Michael Rosenfeld Gallery, and we want to try to get some pictures. Hello, of a Bob Thompson exhibition. Agony and the Ecstasy will make a walking sweep through the exhibition. It's late, so we're going to try to do the classic run and gun. Oh boy, this is marvelous. Special shout out to our viewers in Athens. Edinburgh, St. Ives. Oh boy. Well, we'll start here. This is Untitled. The Miraculous Drought of Fishes, 1961, oil on canvas, 29 by 41. Well, I was so happy to make it in to see the show. I've had a lot of things that have slowed me down and kept me from running around and doing as many reports as I would like to. These are some drawings. It's got magic marker, felt tip pen on paper. These are 1965, and they're 12 by 9. This might be one of the best Bob Thompson shows I've seen in decades. This is Stairway to the Stars. Oil and photostat on masonite, 40 by 60 inches. Well, I think Bob Thompson is one of the more interesting painters that was here in the New York scene in the late 50s, early 60s. He's got this little figure of the black-hatted men in a couple of these. I think that's something that he was borrowing from Lester Johnson, one of the other downtown figure painters. And I think initially he came to New York and was out in Provincetown or someplace a little artist colony on the coast, and got involved with a group of painters. I think it was just after Jan Mueller passed away. This is titled Black Monster. So this was a group of artists that were reconsidering the figure after 20 years of abstract expressionism. Let's go and look at some of the ephemera. It's a self-portrait, 1958-59. And Bob was a great student of classic art, Renaissance art, and a lot of his compositions are based on classic designs. Also, he was one of the people who was downtown on Rivington Street. I paint many paintings that tell me slowly that I have something inside of me that is just bursting, twisting, sticking, spilling over to get out into souls and mouths and eyes that I've never seen before. The monsters are present now on my canvas as in my dreams. And I think that he was also kind of peripherally attached to the downtown jazz scene. It's titled The Entombment, 1960. I think Bob is also interesting from a cultural standpoint here in New York, in the New York art scene, just as someone that had a fantastic career, was discovered, was supported from an early age, and died young. I believe it was maybe in the mid 1966. I believe he was in Rome and died from a heroin overdose. Le Paginator, The Stab, 1959. This is 43 by 49 by 69. So in that way, he was kind of like a Jean-Michel Basquiat. I think they were both 29 when they passed away. But I think the interesting thing is that it's titled Nativity 1961, 36 by 40. When I got to town, very few people knew of Bob. I think he was maybe kind of an underground hero to a lot of local painters. And by that I mean painters, not just artists. Because he really does have a great painting vocabulary. Some of these early, smaller, multiple figure pieces are so nice. And note the pedimenti, or the overlaying of the paint. I think that's one of the things I love about Bob's work. Oh, he's got his little child figure here, and then he's scratched through to the red ground to design the torso. Oh God, this is but it was hard to see a painting by him, and rare that you would see this work in a major institution. This is titled Casting of the Spell, 1960, oil on wood, 7 by 19. Well, I had a loft mate, who was a painter. This is titled Tribute to an American Indian. '68 by '84. 1963. Well, so my next door neighbor was a fan of Bob Thompson and had a couple of postcards that he had stuck up in his studio, and I noticed them and I started looking at them, and he talked a little bit about it, but I didn't know about the backstory. This is titled Adoration, Pink and Blue Figures, 1962, oil on canvas, 30 by 39. Well, I just had to chat with one of the art handlers who was a fan. So as I said, I'm looking at these postcards of Bob Thompson, and occasionally you would see him in a group show at a place like this, Michael Rosenfeld, and then I guess in the mid-90s, there was a reevaluation, and goodness, I think the Metropolitan Museum did a rehanging and put one of his pieces in their show, maybe had a small show of his work and published a book. It's titled The Golden Ass. And then I noticed that the Museum of Modern Art, after they finished the new construction on their new building, they rehung the collection and they had a Bob Thompson there. And at that point I realized that it was about time that the institutions had started to recognize him. And what was nice is that then he started to bring in some other marginal artists that they kind of ignored. People like Buford Delaney. And, well, I guess maybe you could say that Bob was responsible for a kind of recalibration of the structures of institutional aesthetics, something like that. This is The Circus, 1963, oil on canvas, 36 by 36. Well, I just enjoy Bob as a great artist. Admittedly, he was borrowing from a lot of masters, but even that doesn't guarantee that you're going to make good paintings. But he does have a fantastic color sense, and yeah, there's a certain touch. I think also that he was prolific enough that he didn't get really precious with a lot of this. And I believe at one point I compared Bob Thompson to Jean-Michel Basquiat. They both had meteoric careers. They were actually both living within a couple of blocks from each other on the Lower East Side, although in different decades. And they both died young. I think that took a lot longer for the slow cook for Bob Thompson to be recognized, but thanks to people like Michael Rosenfeld, he has appeared back on the scene. This is untitled Oh Laud, 1963, oil on canvas. I think that Bob was kind of known as a character in his own right as well. I think one of the stories that I appreciated was the fact that he was living and working in a loft on Rivington Street. I believe it was number 5 Rivington Street. And, oh gosh, look at that. This was back before the legalized loft movements and all that, so if it was a commercial space, theoretically you couldn't live there. Anyway, this place was pretty much in shambles, and they talked about how a housing inspector came by, knocked on the door, opened the door, and Bob was in there painting, and the inspector looked at him and said, "Do you live here?" And Bob looked at him and said, "If you call this living." Anyway, we were down at Eric Firestone about a month ago, and we talked to a lady named Martha Edelheit, and I think Martha's 94 at this point, something like that. She's pretty spunky though, and well, she talked about hanging out with Bob and some of the other people who were on the downtown scene. And as I said, this was when abstract expressionism was still going strong. There were a lot of young artists that were up on 10th Street that were still doing abstract expressionism. And I think that made it kind of an underground resistance movement to be doing figurative painting. I was also mentioning to the art handler here that this is such an incredible show. And gosh, you'd be hard-pressed to get this many major Bob Thompson paintings together somewhere outside of a museum. Okay, this is The Struggle, 1963, oil on canvas, 58 by 78. Okay, I'm kind of getting a similar kind of thing where Bob would use this swatch of yellow on the figure there in the foreground. Yeah, okay, that's nice. And they talk about him kind of, although he was riffing on some of the old masters, he did have his own collection, menagerie, enclave of mystical figures. Like here we've got the giant greenish black bird in the background. Okay, we're going to wrap up looking at this major piece. This is untitled, The Proofing of the Cross, 1963. 63 by 86 inches. Okay, we've got some cracking on the edges. These pieces are probably rolled up at some point. I think, well, Bob came to New York, was recognized. I think he was showing at Martha Jackson Gallery, probably one of the most avant, provocative art galleries on 69th Street. And, well, everything was looking good. He was recognized, even at that point, as one of the great contemporary African-American artists, and also had all of the panache, the rep for the downtown and the jazzy thing. Oh God, that's nice. And then I believe he received a grant, may have been a Guggenheim grant or something, and went to Rome. And I think he may have had some health problems before that, but then he died there at the age of 29, 1966. Okay, so I've got this little, the shadow of a bird. And you could take all of the figurative elements out of this and just leave the color and the brushworks, and you would have fantastic abstract paintings. It's James Kalm reporting on Bob Thompson, Agony and the Ecstasy, here at Michael Rosenfeld Gallery. You can like this, share, link it up to all your social media sites, and you can leave your thoughts, ideas, comments, criticisms, and suggestions below. And you know what to do, people, right? We just say, thank you, Kate. Thanks for the journey. That was nice. Thank you.